And it's a place where music is held in high regard. You know, they don't have a bunch of TVs, they don't have a bunch of neon. It's like a bunch of old wood where the music has soaked in and people come to really listen. You know, and all your friends come and gather there. And there's no stage. You just line up against one wall, and the audience is basically in your lap.
And when he said, I want to see what Cleveland has, mind you, I'm in the balcony in the front row. I ran up the balcony, down the mezzanine, all the way down to the front.
Once upon a time, in Cleveland, Ohio.
Welcome to Real Cleveland. I'm your host, Justine, and we have a very special show this week. I am in front of Major Hooples on the corner of Franklin and Columbus here in downtown Cleveland. And we have a very special show today in honor of Black History Month. We have a couple musicians who are so unbelievably talented. They're from here, from Cleveland, and they've been all over the world. They've traveled with the Temptations, one who has traveled with some reggae greats. Better stay right there so you can catch it. Hey, welcome back to Real Cleveland. I'm your host, Justine. I am upstairs in Hooples in downtown Cleveland, right here on the Cuyahoga River, which I heard froze for the first time. Norm, the owner, told me he saw it frozen last week for the first time in 25 years. It's a cold one, but it's warm in here. And I've got a couple guests with me today. Carlos Jones, the reggae master, who's been packing clubs and all over Cleveland and abroad for a few decades.
Oh, at least three.
At least 3 decades. And we're going to be talking to Carlos today. And we also have Don Williams Sr. here, who is, you are the jazz musician, you're a keyboardist. You have played with the Temptations. You've had things going on with the Commodores. You've toured with them. You have a lot to talk to us about. How old were you when you started playing? And
well, of course, I started in my mom's basement. You know, after we landed in Cleveland in '69, and we lived out in Maple Heights, and me and my brothers, I got 2 brothers, and we just always liked to use to jam together. And my older brother was a guitar player, you know, phenomenal guitarist, and I was always beating on the furniture until my mom finally bought me a drum. And so that was the genesis of it. I used to play along to all the records I used to listen to. I was into, you know, James Brown and all the whole Motown sound, and you know, mostly all the soul music that came about in the 60s and 70s. That was my thing. And there was this one particular record that made the biggest impression on me as far as starting me off playing drums. It was a song called Be Thankful for What You Got by an artist by the name of William DeVaughn. And it had this real cool opening with the conga drums kind of setting up the rhythm, you know, and I heard that. I was like, wow, what is that? You know, that's the sound I want to make. That's the sound I want to hear. So that kind of started me off playing bongos and conga drums, and that was it.
so you started out drumming, and then you moved to the guitar, and you moved to some other instruments and vocals.
Yeah, the guitar came much later in life. I didn't start really playing guitar until I was in my 20s, mid-late 20s. And that was just so I could get the song ideas out of my head into musical form, you know, but I was always about the drums.
I was 9 years old. I think I saw the Beatles land in America. I Want You Back, and I mean, I was just blown away. I said, that's me right there. And my mom went and bought me a Magnus organ. They played with the air, so that's how we got our notes out, with the air. And it just went from there. I went to elementary school. I picked up violin, flute, saxophone, bass, guitar, drums, and found out that I wanted to play piano.
So you played all of these instruments?
Yes.
Do you come from a musical background, or were your parents playing music, or?
Well, actually, my grandfather said Cab Calloway was his cousin, so I guess he's my great-great cousin or a great cousin. So other than that, my father played piano and harmonica.
So it runs in your blood.
My family, my cousin, she sings with me in my group, Charisma.
Who influenced you the most when you were a kid, other than the Beatles?
I would have to say the Temptations, all the Motown era, the Four Tops, Stevie Wonder, Aretha Franklin. You know, I mean, just every night it was just playing in our house, just booming. And I'm like, I can't get away from this. This is, you know, this is me. This is what I got to do, and I've been doing it ever since.
Carlos, did you come from a musical family as well?
Not so much. My mom and dad were not, they didn't play any instruments. My mom had a real pretty voice. She could sing. My dad, you know, he could whistle real good, you know. But the first musical influence really came through the church. We come from a Southern Baptist upbringing down in Virginia. And my grandfather was a minister in the church that his father's father, or his great-great-grandfather, built in 1876, you know.
Wow. And
that whole little community down there called Scottsburg, Virginia, was, our family was a big part of that whole area and the history of that whole area. And so we were raised up in the church, and I just remember being impressed by the gospel singing and you know, the elders, how they used to stomp the floorboards and that rhythm, you know. That's really what sparked my interest. And then come to find out that my great-great-grandfather was also a musician. He went to college with Booker T. Washington. He taught piano. He built the first school. You know, he played guitar, which I discovered one day stashed away in a corner. And I used to pull that thing out and just kind of pluck the strings and just listen to the vibration. And that was my first exposure to an actual instrument. So that's kind of like where it sprang from. And like Don mentioned, the Beatles, we lived in Germany for a couple of years in the early 60s, mid-60s. And the first record I owned was a Beatles record. And so that really kind of woke me up.
Did you have any formal training?
No, none whatsoever.
So you mean you taught yourself how to play your instrument?
Yeah.
And how about you, Don?
In elementary school, learning violin, of course, I had to learn the notes then. But after that, I taught myself how to play everything. Piano, I can't read a note today.
Oh my gosh!
Same here.
I can't read a note.
You can't read a note.
I've never read music.
No.
So you just sat down with the instrument and figured it out?
Well, you know, I used to go to church, as he said. I went to church religiously every Sunday. I sat behind the pianist, and she just hypnotized them. You know, I'm like, that's me. I got to do that. I want to play like that. I want to play like that. So I taught myself how to play gospel, taught myself how to play jazz, R&B, reggae.
Unbelievable.
So, and it just went from there.
So people refer to you sort of as the George Duke of the 21st century. Tell me about that. Tell me about who George Duke is to you and why people say that about you.
Well, George Duke is he's a friend of mine today. That man is awesome. He's into the Afro, jazz, neo type music. That's like a little bit of funk with some jazz put into it, but expressed your way. And stir that all up, you get George Duke. And people say that I play like George Duke because he was one of my huge idols back in the day. And so, you know, I pick up the keyboard, I wear it around my neck, I do the dances across the stage, you know, I make all the ugly expressions. You know, you gotta get that note. So that's why.
Well, you both seem to have an eclectic mix. I wouldn't really say that you are straight reggae. It seems more like a sort of a Latin groove type of thing. How would you describe your music?
You know, it's all like a melting pot. You know, the influences that we've been exposed to growing up, we take that all in like a sponge, you know. And if you're honest about the music you play, it's all going to come out, you know. I've listened to, like I say, you know, gospel, R&B, funk, blues, rock, reggae, bluegrass. I'm a big bluegrass fan. And I just let it all come out. And whatever the song is, I just express it honestly, and that's who I am. So.
So it doesn't have to be a particular genre for you. It's just about getting the music that's inside of you out.
Exactly.
I can play anything I want. If I can hear it, I can play it. I've never played classical piano. If I heard it and it's a part of the job, I'm doing it by the end of the day.
You know, music is a force of nature, and it has powers to heal and powers to uplift and move the spirit and all of these things that, you know, it's almost magical. This train is bound to glory. This train is bound to glory. This train. You know, music is a force of nature, and it's like when people feel it, it puts everybody in the same place, on the same page, you know, and that's why I love it so much, because it unifies people, and it erases all of those barriers and all of those boundaries that we construct between ourselves in everyday life, you know, so I can't think of nothing better.
It has no colors, doesn't discriminate.
Oh, baby, say we're running, having fun all in the sun, yeah.
So here we are. Mr. Don Williams and Mr. Carlos Jones just met, and they are able to play together this whole song, and without reading any sheet music, without anything in front of them, we came together in this eclectic mix, and that's what it's all about. It's just singing from your heart and playing from your heart,
you know.
And this is what Cleveland's about.
Feeding off of one another.
That's right, you know, it's that live electricity, that energy that flows through us, you know, and it's a universal language that we all understand, you know, and when it comes from within, you know, it's like water meeting water, it just blends, you know.
Exactly, exactly.
You know, they say that music heals and music teaches you, and music does so much to people, and it really, really does.
We were in Bermuda, and we were having a great time in Bermuda. And when we were flying home, my wife now, her and I had planned to meet in Miami, and it didn't go well. We got a phone call in mid-flight from Coca-Cola saying that we're shooting that Monday. And we had already booked a cruise. So she was really ticked off about that. So,
good reason, though.
Sorry, honey. But yeah, she understands now. But we in mid-flight, we didn't land. We went straight to LA, and we shot the Dasani water commercial, which you'll see later on. And the scenes in it shows Misty going to the machine getting water, and it turns over, and of course it says Dasani, and then the classic hit starts, Brick House. So you see people running and turning their heads. That's because you don't know we're behind her. Okay, we're not really behind her, but you know, we're supposedly behind her. You see people jumping chairs with pens and pads. They want autographs. So when she finally goes into the office and slams the water down, the camera pans 180 degrees, and then you see all of us back there.
About what your transitions have been with your different bands and your current band and where you've gone with them.
Okay, well, you know, it's been like pretty much a continuous thread in that when I started out in 78, it was with Ital, which was like one of the first reggae bands to become established in Cleveland, from Cleveland, and it really had a great run and a lot of popularity. And so I came on as a sideman. I played percussion and eventually started singing backup vocals. Around 84, we transitioned from Ital to First Light. And a lot of people around Cleveland know about First Light because you know, we had a great run. We had this real eclectic kind of like reggae, rock, funk, you know, it just all across the board, we just let it all hang out. And, you know, that was a great time. It was like an era in Cleveland, you know, First Light. And it was, yeah, you know, there's a lot of the same guys that had come from Ital and then carried forward. And then towards the end of the 90s, I started feeling like I wanted to get back into the roots of reggae music, which is what brought me into it in the first place. You know, when I heard Bob Marley and groups like, you know, Culture and all the old vocal groups coming out of Jamaica in the 70s, you know, that's the kind of soul music I wanted to do. You know, so that's why I formed the Plus Band, which means Peace, Love, Unity Syndicate. And I wanted to kind of get back to that sound that had the soul in it, you know what I'm saying? So we just progressed. I took a couple of guys from First Light and then some other younger guys from around the area and started the Plus Band, and we've just been rolling ever since.
1984, I had the pleasure of playing with Dennis Edwards of the Temptations. And actually, I got tricked into this audition. We were all asked to come to an audition, and we thought it was for a local group that was possibly getting a record deal. So I kept saying, why are we playing this song, Don't Look Any Further, all day, all night? And they say, all right, you guys did great, go home. You know, we'll call you if you made it. Half an hour later, I get a call. Hey, you made the audition, come back. I go back to the audition. Dennis Edwards walk in the door with his entourage, and I'm like, oh my God. Yeah, I just got out of the military. I'm like, I'm 27 years old. I'm like, why is Dennis Edwards here? You know, I recognized him from being with the Temptations. But, you know, he talked to the band and said, if you guys are interested, we're going out on tour. He just released this song, Don't Look Any Further. You might remember it. How you go. He just released that song. And from 84 to 91, I stayed with Dennis. I became his musical director after 1 year of being on tour.
Wow.
So I took on that responsibility, and then a couple years later, I got with Men at Large in 95. And that was a Jurlavert-based group, Dave and Jason. And I was with them for 2 years, and they did a song, Let's Stay Together. They did So Alone, which made, you know, history. A couple years after that, I got with the Commodores. I was in my basement writing a song, actually writing my album, and got a phone call from my cousin. She said, "Cuz, you play piano, don't you?" I said, "Yeah, I do. Why?" A friend of mine they're looking for a piano player for their group. I'm like, oh boy, another group looking for a piano player. So this young lady calls me and says, "Yeah, my boyfriend plays with this band and he needs a piano player." I'm like, "Sure, okay. Do you know how to play easy?" I'm like, "Yeah, I know how to play easy." I played easy for her. She said, "Hold on a minute." Boom. Put him on the line. Next thing I know, I got all these phone calls coming in. Hold on, somebody else wants to hear you. Somebody else wants to hear you. And next thing I know, I'm talking to the Commodore's manager. That was on a Monday. Tuesday, they FedEx everything in, music, everything. I had to fly out Friday. And I'm at the hotel. The first show was Saturday in Atlanta. We opened up for the Temptations.
Wow.
I learned the whole show in 3 days. And I stayed with them from 99 to 2002.
Well, CarlosJones.com is the website. They can also go to ClevelandReggae.com.
Mm-hmm.
And they can find us in clubs all around Cleveland, Players in Willoughby, Scoundrels in Berea.
I understand you just had a reggae brunch over at the
Reggae
Parkview.
Brunch is over at Norm's Place at the Parkview. Have it every year. I think this is like the 16th one. It's become like a holiday now.
My group is called Charisma, and we play locally around Cleveland. I'm signed with Top Shelf Entertainment, and you can always call and ask Dennis Billone, where's Charisma playing? That's K-R-I-Z-M-A.
What was your most memorable performance?
May 19, 1978, Music Hall, Bob Marley and the Wailers.
Oh, no way!
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Oh my God, you know, I had been listening to reggae for about maybe 4 or 5 years, and of course Bob was the #1 guy. And when I got to actually be there and witness that, I mean, here I am, place was packed, heat, smoke, I mean, everything you could imagine, and the stage was just so lit up and colorful, and here's this one little guy right in the middle, and he had everything in the palm of his hand. You know, he was just like, it was magical, it was electric, it was spiritual, it was just life-changing, and that's when my whole life shifted, right? That day, that's like, wow, this is what I want to feel, this is what I want to do, you know, and yeah.
1998, the State Theater. I was there for my birthday, July 27th. My birthday's the 28th, and I was sitting in the front row in the balcony. And George Duke is sometimes he's known to invite people on stage. And when he said, "I want to see what Cleveland has," mind you, I'm in the balcony in the front row. I ran up the balcony, down the mezzanine, all the way down to the front. And luckily, it was a friend of mine on security that night. Out of all the people, he eyeballed me, pulled me through the crowd. I was the third person to get on stage. And that was an awesome show. I mean, the other people that performed, they did a great job, but I had a 15-minute ovation going back to my seat. Wow. And I'll never forget it. We exchanged numbers with friends today, so whenever they come to Cleveland, we're always there now.
Shout out your website one more time.
Soundclick.com/Don Williams Sr.
And I'm at carlosjones.com.
All right, Cleveland, check them out. You're watching Real Cleveland. I'm your host, Justine. Thanks for tuning in.
House.